about this role at this stage of your career was so appealing?
I think just the opportunity to really assist AP. From the time that I first met him and had the opportunity to coach him, then the opportunity to kind of reunite again later on at Arizona State. And, so it was kind of in a similar role at one point there with him there as well, being in support of him. And I just have been really impressed all the time with him back to 2002 with the now Commanders, I guess. But, so it's just this opportunity. The rest of the coaching staff I spent time with last year, ironically, with the guys, particularly on defense. I coached Mike Caldwell. I had Ricky Manning on my staff at an All-Star game. Met Gerald in 19 at Cal Berkeley. Robbie's career, Leonard, and just so really these guys in association with them and all they've done. So just excited about the opportunity and the offensive staff as well.
I think this is probably a role that is defined not only by you, but like how people are approaching you and asking you and tapping into your knowledge. How has that gone so far, and what do you define the role as?
Well, I define the role as kind of speak when spoken to. I'm here to support them and anything I can do that way, as well as the squad, the players. And that's the thing that's important to me. That I try to keep things leveled out for them as much as I can.
At what point did you realize that AP was coach material?
Well, I don't know that then. I knew he was driven as a player, and I said that to him. And in 2021 at ASU when he became the coordinator, and we flipped roles, and I went back off the field, and he came to me during the bye week. He said, "How am I doing?" I said, "Man, you're doing really good, but you also need to take some time for yourself and take a deep breath as well." Because he's so driven, and I said, "That's how you became such a great player, is you're just so driven." And he also, I think based on how things happened in the fall and so forth, once he took over and reaching out to Coach Coughlin, reaching out to myself and the people that he had come in and be around, and just so he could bounce ideas off of. He's not stuck on himself that way. He wants to hear other people's point of views and so forth that way, and that's good. But he has a great direction himself, as a leader. He takes responsibility for providing direction and reinforcing it each and every day.
Hey, Coach, it's Tashawn Reed from The Athletic. I know when you first became a head coach, you were roughly around the same age as AP, and so kind of some of the first things going through and the learning process that he's within now. How beneficial do you think it is to him to have somebody that's kind of going through a similar journey from that sense?
Well, I hope it is. I think I benefited from having the opportunity to work for two guys who became head coaches for the first time, Brian Billick and Bill Cowher. And then and Coach Spurrier, who had been a head coach, but the first time in the National Football League. So I think those were helpful to me when I got the opportunity to become a head coach. And so it was really, and hopefully I can help benefit AP as well that way.
Did you envision or seek eventually getting back in a role like this, or did this all just kind of come organically because of AP?
It came pretty organically. But I'm excited about it. I had a couple other people inquire at times about my interest in doing something similar, and the proximity to where I've made my permanent home also helped. The fact that it's not very far away from Scottsdale, so that's the good thing. And my three grandsons that I miss.
There's another young coach on the staff who I think has head coach possibilities. That's Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator. How's it been working with Patrick?
It's been a real pleasure. I didn't know Pat. I knew of Pat prior to last fall, and but my opportunity to be around and with him in December and January and through this whole process has just been awesome. And anybody that asks me, I'm very supportive of him becoming a head coach, hopefully in this next cycle. I think he's deserving, both from ability, knowledge, his ability to handle the players and so forth. I really am impressed each and every day. And, so I'm trying to also be helpful to him as he goes forward with this process as well.
Coach, Levi Edwards from Raiders.com. Even from the Commanders to Arizona State, and now Arizona State to the Raiders, what would you what would you classify as AP's biggest area improvement from those 3 steps?
I don't know that I can put my finger on a biggest area of improvement. I think the biggest thing that I think where he has really done a nice job is understanding the pulse of the football team. And I think he did that at ASU when I was with him. He would come to me and he said, when I was supposedly the defensive coordinator and he was the linebacker coach assistant, he said, I think the guys need to run today after defense needs to run today after practice. I said, okay, just, make sure we don't kill him. and I think that was evident to me at the end of the fall last year. And I think it's been evident through this process now, how we began the OTA process and so forth, how are we, he's really conscious of the physical condition of the players and making sure we get all of our right guys to the gate. And I think that's really important as a head coach in the NFL. There's a degree of schematics, a degree of toughness, conditioning, and all those things we're trying to get to. But the key element is when September, whatever date that is, rolls around, we got all the right guys out there, suited up, as many of them as we can. And I think that's really important. So, and I think he has a great sense of that.
Coach, what have you thought about his vision in building this team and implementing what he wants to see out of this group thus far?
I think he's really done a really good job. I think with him, Mr. Davis, and the things that he has said to AP and what he wants, what he knows the Raiders to be, what a Raider is, and I think along with Tom, they've done a nice job of really setting the footprint, the blueprint of that, and trying to make sure we work really hard to put people within those parameters.
Coach, that goes back to culture, and AP's talked a lot about culture. When you were in Cincinnati, you had to do a lot of changing of the culture. How do you go about doing that, and how does he achieve that? It looks like that's what he's doing here.
I think the first part of that is getting the right people in that locker room with you, alongside you. And that was the one thing I thought was really evident here last season, is the best players work extremely hard on the field. And that's contagious. And that builds from the bottom up, and that's what you need. You need your leadership to be out there on the field, because we can't go out there in the huddle with them. And I think that was the same thing true, is bringing the right kind of people in and so forth as you continue to build the roster and build the football team. But there's already a great nucleus here, and we're able to continue to build upon that because these guys that are here are really driven that way, and there's a lot of energy that way.
Hey Coach, Alex Eshel on the Channel 13. Sorry, I'm always back here from you, but I know it's early on. What excites you most about this year's group that you've seen so far?
I think a lot of the things we're talked about offensively is working hard to be more explosive on offense. And I think trying to put playmakers in position on offense and so forth. I think that's really important. I think defensively, picking up where the squad left off and really being able to, a lot of the starters are returning, and then the addition of Christian Wilkins into that group, and then the evolution and the growth of these young players that maybe were spot players last season that now are seeing an opportunity to raise their lot and get more playing time and so forth, maybe become a starter or so forth, or a role player. I think Malcolm Kuntz is one that, watching what he did at the end of the year, I think everybody looks around and says, man, look what Malcolm did. I can do that. And I think that's really important. And I think that's the atmosphere that's been created, throughout the football team.
Marvin, speaking of the defense, I know you got a good look at this team up close towards the end of last year, and then so even now in OTAs, do you see some of the qualities from Max Crosby that you saw from Hall of Famers like Ray Lewis and Rod Woodson back in the Ravens?
I do. I see a driven player. I also had the opportunity to be around Bruce Smith and Darryl Green for a season, And, you see guys in Champ Bailey, you see guys that have become at the pinnacle, Shannon Sharp, of their game and how they go about their business each and every day. You can set your watch by Max Crosby now. Somebody said it'd be easy to assassinate him because you know where he's going to be at all times. And, he's phenomenal. And, being over there in Arizona, I got to spend a lot of time over with the Cardinals and watching J.J. Watt at the end of his career. And the very last practice J.J. Watt had for the Arizona Cardinals, he looked like Max Crosby looks every day out here. And I think, to me, that shows you what a great player is like. I was influenced as a young coach in the NFL by Rod Woodson, and then later was fortunate enough to draft Ray Lewis, and then we brought Shannon Sharp. So I've been watching how these guys who've become Hall of Fame players, how they go about and go about their day each and every day, and Max has those qualities.
When you look back at the last 9 weeks of last year, you never know how that's going to go sometimes as an interim coach. But how invaluable and important, now that you look back, was that experience not only for Antonio Pierce but the players, and setting the tone that they set last year to kind of create the momentum through this year?
I think the biggest thing is everybody knows each other. There was no surprises. He didn't change throughout, and he kept that fire, that drive with them, and I think that's really important. So there's nobody wondering about how this team is going to work through adversity. One of the things that I have said, I came in this building 3 times after losses. After the first Kansas City loss, after the Minnesota loss, and after the Colts loss. And nobody was hanging their head. There was no, people walking around, poor me. And they went right back to work with that drive in their eyes, and you could see it. And that's hard to do, man. Believe me, I know. Because you have some losses that hurt. You get knocked from the playoffs. The Minnesota loss. Those are hard things, and they bounced right back. And they came to work Monday morning. That was the key element, and there was no hangover, and that's so important.
Coach, you talked about your general role. Specifically, have you gotten into what your game day role will be? Will you be box on the field, or what kind of things?
I don't know that. I don't know what where actually I'll be. The press box looked awful crowded up there last year. And I know if I'm on the side, I better stay back. I'm gonna be like Coach Fitch, But I don't know yet. What AP thinks, and where I can add value. We'll see.
After that experience last year, though, were you sure that you wanted to be back if AP became the interim coach, or take some convincing, or what was?
No, it didn't take any convincing at all, really. Between he and Mr. Davis, I don't think it took much. I'm excited for him. That's all I can say. Each and every day, when he was going through the process, after the season and so forth, we talked probably every couple of days, not every day, but every couple of days. And then as he began to put the staff together, he would check in with me and, just tell me how things were going and what he liked, what he did dislike, and so forth. And then, anything I could do to help him, to research coaches and so forth. That's what my role was.
Coach, how would you describe AP's maturation growth last season?
I think he really did. I think he grew. I think you learn. One of the things people ask me, what do I need to know when I become a head coach? And one of the things I would tell them is, tomorrow will be better. And I think you learn how to try to level out a lot of those peaks and valleys. And I think those are the things that are important. He had to make. There was a couple things that occurred where they made roster decisions. And I think you learn from every time you have to make one of those decisions during the season, where you're changing players in and out and so forth. And I think that's also part of this job, is having a certain pulse and a feel for that. That you can't necessarily hurry into decisions. You gotta make sure you weigh the pros and cons of those things.
You talked about some of the players in the past, how they compare to Max Crosby. A guy like Jack Jones that will make a play and then tell you about how he made that play. What does that bring to kind of the rest of the defense?
Want to have some consistency of things, and you know, we're trying to iron Jackie out a little bit, you know, all the time. He's a very talented player, and I've had the pleasure, as I told him again, Jack, it's been 5 years now. And let's move on. Let's move to step B. We're still on step A, but he's a very talented young man. He has a knack for making football plays, and you know, he just has that about him. And I think it's just learning, still in the process, learning to be a pro day in and day out. And I think that's important. And I think, but his teammates know what they're going to get out there on the field, and we just got to make sure we keep all those things positive all the time. You know, I mean, I remember at the end of the season, he made just a great play in the Denver game where he came across and tipped the ball in the end zone. The next play, he didn't move. You know, and that's the thing. It's you know, this is a tough. You play it. That's a position. It's the toughest position on the field. I mean, you got to cover a guy that you can't touch. He knows where he's going, and you can't touch him. Other than that, it's easy. You know.
You guys all set? All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thank
you.
You're welcome.